Welcome back to another episode of Automotive Insight. We have a 2015 Nissan Pathfinder. Customer says they need a tune-up. I said that's easy, I can do that. So I turned the volume up on the radio. We're going to replace the spark plugs on it. It's a V6, so let's get into it. All right, first thing we're going to do is remove the upper intake tube here. We're also going to remove the engine cover. There's 2 bolts, 4 bolts. They're all 10 millimeters. So the upper intake has to come off to get to the back spark plugs. I'm going to start with those because I like to save the easy ones for last. We're going to remove the clamp here. That's attached to the part of the PCV system and the upper intake tube, or the intake hose, and the upper air filter box. Undo the hose clamp. We'll disconnect the mass airflow sensor as well.
It's a
8 millimeter. It's got a plastic clip on it. There's 4 5 millimeter Allen head bolts for the throttle body. We're going to leave it connected and leave the coolant lines connected to it. So I'm going to work on removing this bracket and this solenoid here. I want to take it off from the metal line and these 2 10mm bolts to see if we can just set it out of the way. You could probably do another method of taking it off here and leaving it on with the whole intake, but
yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
remove this harness holder thing. We'll go ahead and disconnect these solenoids too while we're here. We're going to disconnect this connector and unbolt it here. That way we'll take it out with our intake. That bolt's a 10 millimeter. Take this vacuum line off. There's a brake booster line at the back. We've got a long pair of needle nose pliers. So that's the vacuum line we got to take off. I'll remove that clamp from the back of the intake, and then also there's the AF sensor bracket. We're going to try to take it off from the bottom, and we're going to just see if we can slip it out on the lower part of the bracket. So after a little more discovery, this hose actually is going to come off with the intake. So we're going to disconnect it from right here. We're going to remove the intake bolts. There's 4, they're all 10 millimeters. There's 4 bolts in the middle and 2 nuts on the end. Everything disconnected. We're going to see if we can remove the intake now. After getting the intake out, went ahead and just stuffed some rags down into the intake ports. I'll save you a pretty big headache in case something drops down in there. We'll remove the 3 ignition coils. They're held down by 3 10 millimeter bolts. We'll remove the connectors and remove the coils. The spark plugs are 14 millimeter. I don't have a specialty spark plug socket, but extension and a deep well socket works well.
and a magnetic finger.
And yes, and a magnetic. install your new spark plugs. Alright, spark plugs are tight. I'm going to put our coils back in. Put our intake back on. You can replace the intake gasket if you want to. I usually don't find this to be an issue on these. Okay, we'll put our two vacuum lines and our harness back in the bracket. We'll put this box back on. Alright, just going to work my way over with all the solenoids and plugs. This one bolt for the solenoid. Alright, we're going to put our inverted 5mm hex bolts back in. Intake tube. I'm going to put this side on here. That's the only tool you need right there. Upper air filter housing. And plug your mass airflow in while we're here. Alright, for the hardest part of this is one where you end up cross-threading spark plugs. And but we're going to do the front three. Save the best for last. Let's just strip out that one button. Coils removed. Remove your spark plugs. Same as the back side. Alright, put your coils back in. Put your engine cover back on. We've already started it up just to make sure before. Let's last a little bit. Air intake. Well, this is going to wrap up another episode. This repair is not that bad. I really think Nissan's probably simplified it. I remember the mid-2000s that the V6 were a little bit more irritating and harder to do. So this job is not that bad. If you like what you saw today, give us a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching.
It'll pick you up at 8. You probably won't be awake. Call yourself an Uber, babe. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait.
I can make your bed rock. I.